Have you ever told yourself that you could finally change your life if everyone would just leave you alone? No messages, no invitations, no family interruptions, no people asking for small pieces of your time. You imagine disappearing for 6 months and returning stronger, richer, calmer, and completely transformed. But then you close the door, sit down to work, and reach for your phone before the first difficult thought arrives. The room is quiet. Your attention is still crowded. So what if the people around you are not the main reason you cannot focus? What if disappearing from them only hides the distraction you carry with you? Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is WiseMind Stories. The third idea in the 6-month plan is not to vanish from your life. It is to disappear from the noise that keeps you absent while you are still inside it. Because you can turn off the world and still carry its noise in your pocket. In this episode, we will explore why extreme isolation often fails, how unprotected attention damages both work and relationships, and how to become less available to distraction without becoming emotionally unavailable to the people who matter. To understand the difference, let's begin with Jordan. Jordan Lee was sitting in the back row of his daughter's school auditorium when his watch vibrated. On stage, 9-year-old Ellie was walking toward a microphone for her first solo. Jordan glanced down. A client had sent 4 words. "Can you check this?" Jordan told himself it would take 10 seconds. He opened the message, read the attachment, and typed a reply. When he looked up, the audience was applauding. Ellie was already walking back to her place. Jordan raised his phone to record, pretending he had not missed the moment. After the performance, Ellie ran toward her mother first. "Did you hear me?" she asked. Jordan answered too quickly. "Of course." She looked at him for a second, then turned away. Jordan had not intended to miss his daughter's solo. In fact, the entire reason he was working so hard was to create more freedom for his family. 6 weeks earlier, he had begun a professional certification that could help him leave an exhausting consulting job. He also wanted to develop a small independent practice. If he could survive 6 focused months, he believed their future would change. So Jordan adopted what he called monk mode. He declined dinners, left group chats, stopped calling friends, and announced that he would be unavailable until the work was done. He bought noise-canceling headphones. He placed a sign on the spare bedroom door, "Deep work, do not disturb." He expected the silence to make him productive. Instead, he carried every distraction into the room. Whenever the course became difficult, Jordan checked industry news. Industry news became email. Email became social media. Social media became videos about how disciplined people organize their mornings. 2 hours later, he would emerge irritated that someone had knocked on the door. His wife, Maya, began handling dinner, homework, and bedtime alone because Jordan was in focus mode. But when he returned to the family, he did not return fully. His phone remained beside his plate. His eyes moved toward every vibration. During conversations, part of him waited for an escape. He had become unavailable to his family and permanently available to everyone else. A person who is available to everything is fully present for nothing. The night after Ellie's performance, Maya found Jordan at the kitchen table answering the client again. "She knew you missed it," Maya said. Jordan defended himself. "I'm doing this for us." "No," Maya replied. "You're telling us not to interrupt you, while you let strangers interrupt us." Jordan looked at the phone in his hand. Maya's next sentence was quieter. "You haven't disappeared from distraction. You've disappeared from us." That was the reversal Jordan had not expected. He thought focus required removing people, but the people he removed were not the ones controlling his attention. His family asked for visible moments: dinner, homework, a performance, a conversation before bed. The digital world asked for nothing clearly, which made its appetite unlimited. No message said, "Give me the next 47 minutes and feel worse afterward." It asked for 10 seconds, then 10 more. Attention rarely disappears in one dramatic decision. It leaks through permissions too small to feel dangerous. Which interruption has become so normal that you no longer count its cost? Jordan's first response was to delete every app from his phone. For 2 days, he felt clean and powerful. On the third day, he reinstalled email because a client needed him. Then the news app returned. By the end of the week, the phone looked almost the same. The problem was not simply that technology existed. The problem was that Jordan had never decided when access to him began or ended. He had confused a dramatic restriction with a designed boundary. Extreme rules feel strong because they remove negotiation. But when a rule cannot survive your actual responsibilities, breaking it can become another excuse to abandon the entire system. Maya did not ask Jordan to quit the certification. She asked him to make his focus honest. Together, they drew what they called an attention perimeter. A perimeter does not remove the world. It creates a controlled way for the world to enter. The first part was remove. Jordan turned off every notification that did not come from a real person with an urgent reason to reach him. News alerts disappeared. Social alerts disappeared. Email stopped announcing itself. He removed work accounts from the tablet used in the living room. His phone no longer slept beside the bed. The goal was not to prove that he had self-control. It was to stop asking self-control to win hundreds of unnecessary battles. Every object in your environment is making a small request. The phone on the desk asks to be checked. The open inbox asks to be cleared. The television asks to continue what you watched last night. If the request is always visible, part of your mind is always answering. The second part was restrict. Jordan created 3 short windows for email and messages: before lunch, near the end of the workday, and once after Ellie went to bed. His clients were told when he would respond and how to reach him if something was genuinely urgent. This felt risky. Jordan had built part of his professional identity around being the person who answered immediately. But immediate response and reliable service are not the same thing. One proves availability. The other produces trust. The third part was ritualize. Jordan's certification work would begin at the same desk at 6:30 on 4 mornings each week. The phone stayed in the kitchen. The first task was written on a card the night before. He no longer entered the room with the vague command to be productive. He entered with one visible action: complete the case analysis, watch one lesson, draft one client process. Attention becomes easier to protect when it knows where to land. The fourth part was return. At 7 in the evening, Jordan placed his phone in a drawer. Dinner and Ellie's bedtime became protected presence, not leftover time. If Jordan needed an extra work block, he discussed it with Maya before disappearing behind the door. Boundaries without communication often feel like rejection. A boundary people can understand becomes a promise. Jordan's new system was less dramatic than monk mode. It did not produce a heroic photograph of a man separated from the world. It produced something more useful: predictable attention. For the first 2 weeks, he felt restless during the morning work block. Without email, he noticed how quickly his mind searched for relief when a lesson confused him. The urge to check the phone was not always a need for information. Often, it was a desire to escape the feeling of not knowing. This is one reason distraction is so powerful. It does not merely entertain us, It rescues us from boredom, uncertainty, effort, and the possibility that our first attempt may be poor. Jordan began placing a small mark on paper whenever he wanted to leave the task. He did not shame himself. He waited 60 seconds before deciding. Most urges passed, some did not. When the same question remained in his mind, he wrote it down and checked it during the next message window. He was not training himself to feel no distraction. He was learning that an urge did not have to become an action. By month 3, Jordan had completed more of the certification than he had during the previous 6 months of scattered effort. But the deeper change appeared one Thursday evening. Ellie was showing him a model bridge she had built for school. Halfway through her explanation, Jordan's watch vibrated. He looked at Ellie instead of the screen. "What happens if this part gets heavier?" he asked. Ellie smiled and began moving the pieces. The message waited 11 minutes. Nothing collapsed. Attention is not what you say matters. It is what receives the next minute. At the end of 6 months, Jordan completed the certification and signed his first independent client. He did not quit his job immediately. He had not achieved total freedom, but he had created evidence that another career was possible without making the people he loved pay for every hour of construction. Disappear from noise, not from responsibility. That is the principle Jordan had misunderstood. If you want to create your own attention perimeter, begin by asking what must actually disappear. Is it the phone during deep work? The news that changes your mood but not your decisions? The group chat you check because silence feels uncomfortable? The obligation you accepted only because saying no felt impolite? Then decide when the world may enter. Choose message windows. Tell the people affected. Create an emergency path that is narrow enough to remain an emergency path. Next, give important work a place to land. Use the same time, the same location, and a clearly defined first action. Do not begin a focus block by deciding what the block is for. Finally, protect moments of return. Who deserves to experience you without competing with a screen? Which meal, conversation, walk, or hour will become a place where your attention is no longer for sale? The goal is not to become unreachable. It is to become reachable on purpose. What would the people closest to you say currently owns your attention? Where are you demanding silence from others while allowing unlimited noise through a device? And if you disappeared from distraction for 6 months, which part of your real life might finally become visible again? Jordan still used his phone. He still answered clients. Some mornings his mind wandered, and some evenings work lasted longer than planned. The difference was that distraction was no longer the default owner of every open minute. He did not leave his life to change it. He learned how to return to it. But even a protected environment cannot guarantee progress forever. At some point, the plan stops feeling new. The result remains far away. You wake up without excitement, and the work you chose begins to feel ordinary. That is the moment most transformations are lost. In the next episode, we will explore what happens when motivation dies, how to create a minimum standard for bad days, how to recover after breaking a streak, and why the ability to return matters more than the ability to remain perfect. Because discipline is not proved by never falling out of rhythm. It is proved by how little distance you allow one bad day to create. Until then, remember, you do not need another life. You may simply need another way to see this one.